If you ever feel like you just can't seem to find your direction in life, and you know that you were destined for like greater things, but man, like it's just really hard to find the motivation, to find the time, to find the resources to do what you're supposed to do, I have sometimes found in my experience that it's typically because of a lack of a North Star. Now, what do I mean by this? A North Star is kind of like a picture or a mental map that you have inside of your mind of what you are actually working towards. And a lot of people like to use this as kind of like a vision board, or they'll write down in journal to try and manifest a certain lifestyle. Whatever it might be, you need some kind of direction and some kind of vision in your mind for what exactly it is that you are aiming towards. If you do not have this, you have everything fighting against you because you don't necessarily know what you want. Now, this is really important, and this is something that I've had to like deal with for a long time. But if you are not clear about what you want, there's no way for you to make measurable progress towards your goal, because you don't even know what your goal is, right? And this is really important because this is the reason why a lot of people feel like they're floating and they're not really sure if they're making progress and they're not really content with the things that they're doing because their vision for their life is still very, very blurry and they can't seem to like really grasp on to their day-to-day activities and like determine if that's going to lead them to where they want to go. So how do you create a really good North Star? Well, there's a couple questions that you can ask yourself, and I really have enjoyed journaling them and just like making videos of this, trying to get my words out of me and my thoughts out of my own head so that I can like put them out there and see what I really think, just by talking. Because sometimes, like, I don't know, you guys have experienced this where you'll say something out loud that you probably hadn't thought through fully, and it came out and it was just like authentic and you felt like, wow, like I don't know where this came from, but this was good. So here's a couple questions that really helped me. The first one was, if money and status were no object, what would you do with your time? So basically, assume that money wasn't a thing, assume that status wasn't a thing. What feels authentic for you to be using your time on? Is it making videos like this, where you try and help people understand life around them? Or is it volunteering? What exactly is your thing that like gets you going? That if money was not a thing, that you would just love to do this thing. Some people love reading, some people love cooking, some people love whatever it may be. You need to figure out what exactly your North Star is, right? The thing that you would do for free. Because this is going to be a big, big part of what encompasses like your life and your North Star. Because if you know this thing that you absolutely love, and this is what you would do like on your free time, if you had all the free time in the world, this is it. It becomes much more easy to like, you know, either monetize it in this lifetime where money and status are a real thing, or for you to like prioritize it in some way that is like going to be very enjoyable to your future. So that is a really interesting prompt. The second one is one by Jordan Peterson, and he basically just like has you think, and he says you could have everything that you want. Like you could have it all, but you have to know what you want and you have to aim towards it. And the first part is like really sitting down with yourself and journaling and asking yourself, what do I want? Right. And it's a process that actually has taken me like a long time, like maybe like a year to really understand. Because that question implies like, what do you want as an individual compared to what does society want you to want at large? And this is really, really important. This is like not easy to do. This oftentimes like takes a lot of reflection, takes a lot of time to just like understand yourself well enough. And matter of fact, like I will say that one of the most important things that you can do in this exploration phase is actually just try stuff. Because like Steve Jobs had this thing in his Stanford graduation. I remember the quote, and it was like, when it comes to matters of the heart, you'll know when you're there, or you'll know when you get there, right? And I think there's something super true about that. Um, when you start doing things that you have not done before, and you just instantly fall in love with it, like it is a matter of the heart at that point. It is something that like you wouldn't have had the intellect to rationalize. but rather it was you in the moment experiencing a new level of life that you have not been in before that allowed you to really propel. So this is really important. It's like you need to like experiment and try things before you can figure out what you can say you like and what you can say you don't. Because oftentimes a lot of the things that we like and we don't like are just social circumstances of our friends and our peers and our family, right? And it's like if they like these things, then I don't objectively like fully hate them. So I would just say that I like them in a social setting so that, I'm not alone, right? Unfortunately, like you might like those things, maybe you actually do like those things, right? But they're not truly like your desires. They're not something that you would have chosen without any external influence. This is very important. So you have to reflect, you have to ask yourself what you want, and you have to divorce yourself from the opinions and the sway that like your social circumstance has on you in terms of what you actually want out of life. Okay. And the third thing that I think really, really helps quite significantly is looking back on your childhood experience. So one of the books that really changed my life, like for the better, was a book by Robert Greene called Mastery. And in the book Mastery, he has three sections. The first section is called your finding your life's task. And basically what is implied by that is like when you were young, when you were a child, when you're like from the ages of, maybe 4 to like 10-ish, right? I think for me, my life task was kind of in there. There is some things that you were doing as a child that were just like you just did them so naturally, like without explanation. These are inclinations and little like small habits, things that you did that no one could explain, but you just did it. You just did it out of habit. You just did it like because you loved it, right? It was authentic. And the reason why this is so important is because that version of you was the version of you that did things because he wanted to do those things and was not tainted by the outside world and was not like trying to be molded into what I should like or what I am good at or what I'm not good at, right? It was probably the most authentic version of you, right? It was your younger self. So you have to appeal to that to a little bit. And I'll just give you my example. It's like my life task, like from the early age that I can remember, like this is the earliest that I can remember, is like I was always someone that loved learning as much as I could. I would just learn everything, right? I remember in fifth grade, I would just like wake up in the middle of the night, and not even in the middle of the night, it's like I'd wake up so early, like 5 a.m., just to try and learn as much as possible. I'd watch YouTube videos, I would just like watch documentaries, everything. I wanted to learn it all with an implicit like reason for that. The reason was I want to learn everything that I can so that I can have a conversation with anyone about everything, right? That was my goal in fifth grade. And it ultimately did play into my life task because my life task was to teach people. It was to be a mentor. It was to be a coach. It was to help people understand things that they're not quite understanding. And I think for me, how that kind of transpired is like when I was much younger, I would just like really like to teach people math or science or whatever it may be, whatever the students needed at the time. I was the person that was like always there teaching them, right? And I loved it. It was great. And then middle school was the exact same thing. And then in high school, it looked really different because now I had much more life experience. So after I had lost so much weight, I ended up giving a TED talk. And before money, before you're influenced by like worldly things almost, you're on this path and you don't necessarily know it, but you're just doing it because these are the things that you love to do. And it's so important for you to like actually stick on this path because at least for me, I realized that I ended up deviating a little bit from this path the second that any job or anything was involved, because now I was no longer thinking in terms of like what I was best to do, right? What I was the best doing, but rather what made the most money. And what made the most money might not be the best thing for me because it might lead me in a very like undesirable place where yes, I might be making a lot of money, but I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm like working on my life's task. And that is much worse than making a little bit less money, but having that fulfillment, right? So it's really important that you understand like your life's task because your life's task will play a huge role in like your happiness and fulfillment with whatever job or career you have. And if your job or career does not allow you to like embody your life task, sometimes it's worth just like stepping out of that career, realizing that you were placed in it and that you did not place yourself in that career, and then like shifting. And if that's something that's like completely off the table, you can't do it, then it's great to like have outlets like creating content to express or to like just, really feel and put out your life's task. Because ultimately, like, you will have this energy to do certain things, whether it's to mentor people or to just talk and to be like an older brother, at least for me, right? And like this energy will exist regardless. And if you don't end up using this energy in the right places, it will like manifest itself into really bad habits. And I would rather just do this and get over the gripe of being on camera and learning to make micro adjustments every single video so that they improve, right? And to make this like viable for me to want to keep doing, than have all this excess energy of me wanting to do this thing, but I'm actually not doing it. And then it deviates into bad habits, overeating or just like wasting time, scrolling, whatever it may be. Like, there is an amount of energy that you have in you, and if that energy needs to go somewhere. So most people, they'll just pacify themselves with scrolling, which is very unfortunate, right? Because you have so much extra energy at the end of your workday, at the end of like whatever. And some people don't think they do, but it's just because they're not energized by the right things in most circumstances, right? There are certain things that will energize you and there are certain things that will drain you. You want to be in the profession where like the thing that you do is so aligned to the person that you are that it energizes you to go to work. It energizes you to like work hard because you're realizing that this is fun. This is more like a game than anything else. People that don't feel like they're in that career, like they're like having to just push and they're like sluggish through like all of this because it's not easy to do because it was never truly designed for you to do. It was designed maybe for someone else, but not necessarily you. And it's really important that you find this because like the sooner that you can find it, the sooner that you can put yourself into the right circumstance. And unfortunately, some people waste years and years in the circumstances that other people have put them into and they're not particularly happy with or proud of. But the sooner that you can just figure this out and not waste time, it becomes so important. Um, and it becomes like you're saving yourself from continuing to like dig a deeper and deeper hole that you are the one that like needs to get out of. You need to get out of that hole. And if you just keep digging yourself out of it, thinking that you're going to get out that way, you are mistaken, right? Because there are certain people that understand this concept conceptually and they understand that there's a life task and they understand that like their current like position in life is not leading them to fulfillment, but they'll continue to dig the hole deeper and deeper and say, I've been here like a long time and I can't just leave now, or like, I can't just make the pivot. And it's like, in that circumstance, what are you to do? Like, you're just digging the hole deeper and deeper. Like, obviously you can't save people that don't want to be saved, but like sometimes these are things that you do really, really have to think about because ultimately, like, you only get one life. Like, I hear the expression thrown a lot, like, oh, maybe in the next lifetime, right? And I'm just like, no, like, fuck that. Like, we'll do it in this lifetime, right? Like, there's absolutely no guarantee you'll get another lifetime. Let's just enjoy and maximize this lifetime to the fullest. But, anyways, I got a little bit deviated there. Those are three things. Once you have those three things, right? It is important to put them all together and to have a vision, right? And when you figure out what you want and what you were born for, and, if money and status were no thing, what would you want to do with your time? It's really beneficial to like have a vision board, right? Have some place where you can like physically like just see if I'm on this path, if I'm continue to work, and I'm like making progress towards this ideal, what are the material things that I can like look at every day and I'm just like, this is what I'm working for, right? You want to have that in your life because if you don't have that, it can get sometimes very discouraging, like having to put yourself into challenging like circumstances where you just have no idea what you're doing and you feel that. And if you don't have that thing that you are constantly just like gravitated towards, it makes it very hard. So Tony Robbins has this great like concept that he calls push motivation versus pull motivation, right? So your pull motivation is having this North Star, is having a vision of your life that is so compelling that it just makes it so easy for you to actually just get the work done, because this vision of your life is so much greater than the pain that is necessary to get there, right? This vision of your life is like so much more amazing that it makes the pain bearable, right? So that is your pull motivation. Your push motivation is very different. So if you are in a job and you get threatened by your boss to be fired if you don't excel or do better, this is push motivation, right? And the thing is that humans have a very limited amount of willpower, right? Some humans have more than others, but ultimately willpower is finite. Pull energy is not, like, pull energy is infinite, right? So you want to be playing more infinite games than finite games. And if you feel like you are trying to make progress on one front, but your willpower is constantly drained, it might not be the best path for you, or maybe you're just not taking the best approach to it, right? Because ultimately, two people can have the same goal, right? Two people can have the weight loss goal, for example. One person who is in the push has to, like, they feel like they have to make progress on this diet, right? They feel like they have to do the hour of cardio and like cut back 500 calories and whatnot, right? And they feel like it's dreadful because they feel like I need to do it, right? Like they don't necessarily enjoy it because they don't see it as such a pleasant thing. And then you have the person with the pull motivation, and you're just like, man, like, do you see this body that I'm gonna have in like a couple months? Like, this is gonna be amazing. I'm gonna go to the beach, I'm gonna take my shirt off, and everyone's gonna be like, everyone's gonna be staring. And I am going to love it, right? I'm going to bask in the sunshine, and I'm going to just like have the time of my life with this new body. Which person do you think is gonna like get there, right? Because one person is going to, they might get there, both of them might get there, but like one person's going to really enjoy their time getting there because they had this vision of their life of like what it was like to experience these things, and they thought about the body kind of like as the North Star. The other person who is in the push camp, they aren't necessarily thinking about the body as often as they are thinking about, oh, I need to make sure that I track all of this. I need to make sure that like I'm checking off all the boxes so that I can lose weight. And like, oh shit, like I didn't lose weight any this week, like, oh, I wonder what this means. That kind of person, unfortunately, is like they might get there, but they will like have a much less pleasurable time compared to the person that is doing all the things but is more in like a flow state because he's like so excited for what this like future vision of his body's going to look like. This is super important, right? If you are going to be on this path, which you are, right? Because other like what other alternative is there? If you are going to be working toward your goals and ideals and ambitions, the person that wins is the person that has the most fun on the journey. Okay? I'm going to say that again. Two people on the same path, same goal, right? The person that wins is not like the person that gets there like first, right? That's not necessarily the person that wins. The person that wins is the person that can look back on that experience and have the most joy and happiness and best stories to tell out of going through that adversity, right? Or that journey. I remember Naval Ravikant like was talking about this on a podcast, and I think it was Chris Williamson had asked him like, if you could do it all over again, would you? And do you have any regrets? And he's like, I would do everything that I did all over again, but with less emotion. And he continued to say is like, what I mean by that is I realized that I didn't have to be as angry as I was. I didn't like have to be as emotional as I was. I didn't have to be as sad. I didn't have to be, as frustrated as I was on this journey. And he's like, I could have gone the journey without feeling all those things and still have gotten the same result, and looked back on the journey with much more joyous and happiness. And this is super important. This is like super important. Like, you need to enjoy the journey. That's all there is to there, because eventually when you reach your destination, you'll just set further and further goals, and you'll just like habituate to the goal setting pattern. And that's great and all, but if you are miserable on your acquisition to the goal, like, you'll look back on this entire goal setting thing and you'll just realize that like you were miserable the entire time, and you're just like, what was the point? you know. I set the goals with the intention of like, I'm going to have a better life at the end of this. And most people, when they think that they're going to have a better life, they think that they're going to be genuinely more content than they currently are, right? It's an expectation that most people have. Otherwise, they wouldn't set goals. Like, no one would set a goal if they think that they were going to be in a worse place because of the goal, right? Goals are typically like positive in nature. But anyways, so yeah, very important to enjoy the path. And once you can do all this, once you have a vision board, once you have a very clear path of what it is you want, then you find the easiest way of getting there, and you find the most enjoyable way of getting there, right? And obviously, like, I'm not going to go over all of that in this video, but obviously there are simple principles that you can just like figure out how to do, which is just like, try and enter flow state as much as possible. Write down your challenges. Try and work on like improve something every single week. Like very simple stuff like that. But it's very important, right? Ultimately, like sometimes people will overlook the simple things, but in the long term, that is the most important thing. Were the simple things that you were supposed to be doing, but never did because you took them for granted because you thought that they were so simple that they wouldn't make a difference. But the simple things compounded tend to be the most extraordinary things in the long term, right? Because no one does them, right? Absolutely no one does them. So, very important. And obviously, once you are at the end, once you have achieved everything that you want, once you have the North Star, um, sometimes you might contemplate, was it worth it? But what you will realize is like the alternative was much worse. Like if you never made any progress on any front, there was no point in living, you know? Like I genuinely believe that there's no like I was having this conversation with a friend and we basically came to the same conclusion that if we didn't have goals, like there was no point in living. We might as well just like have killed ourselves if we didn't have any goals. The reason why we don't kill ourselves is because we have these goals that we're like actually trying to make progress on. So it's worth seeing if we can get there before before anything, you know. I'm just joking, but it's really important that you like understand this concept conceptually. It's like there's a North Star. You need to find what your North Star is and you can't lose it, right? So once you have this, once you have your vision board, once you have your North Star, like print it out, like have it in front of a mirror. Like this is kind of like the whole manifestation thing, right? But it is very true. If there is something that you want in your life and you are continually seeing it, it is pattern recognition that you will find opportunities that will lead you much closer to that goal, right? So it's very important that you do this. Anyways, this is like a life lesson that I wish I had known much earlier and has taken me an extraordinary amount of time to learn. But I'm telling you, like, if you implement some of the things that are in here, it is like so pivotal. Like, go and check out the podcast that I was talking about. Go and check out the books. Go and check out like all the resources. Because as much as I may want to try and convey the message, I can't do it as well as, the first principle or like the book that I got it from, right? Like, I can only articulate it as well as my context of the information will allow me to, right? Because the author had all the context required to make the point as articulate as possible. But like me, who is, has much less life context than the authors or the podcast hosts, it's much harder for me to articulate. So go to source, right? Really important just in life. Like you always want to go to the source. You don't want to take people's words verbatim. You just want to use them as a stepping stone or as a reference point to go back to the original source and to like get your information from there. But anyways, so I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this video did serve you, and if it did, let me know. I'd be super interested. And if you guys do like this type of content, please let me know, because like this is something that I'm really passionate about and want to work more towards. So I appreciate y'all. Take care.